mean, I don't know what to say. I can't even begin to imagine what you want to hear. It's just not a very good football team. That's not me searching for some scalding take or anything like that. It's not a shot. It's not a jab. It's just, look at it. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates that I hope you'll also check out. Packers 35, Steelers 25 last night at Acrisure Stadium. I'd love to tell you this was some great competitive thing. I'd love to tell you that there were at least some positives from the Pittsburgh perspective. I'd love to tell you that there was even a facet other than Chris Boswell's kicking where you could say, hey, you know what though? They got a little bit better. Remember the stuff I was talking about late last week on the show when I was saying, and boy, this was really unpopular with some, that I would take the loss as long as we saw the defense get better. Remember that? Ooh, some people didn't like that. Okay, how about now? The Steelers were up 16-7 in this game. Defense wasn't great, but in the first half, the Packers had a 3-and-out. They punted 2 other times. They missed 2 field goals, and they did have an early touchdown. After that, after intermission, touchdown, field goal, end of game. That's what the official NFL drive chart has right in front of me here. That's what Green Bay did. Jordan Love completed 20 passes in a row. He'd finished 29 of 37 for 360 yards. 3 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. And by the way, remember all that trash? And I do mean trash. And I was identifying it as such at the time about how the Steelers really just needed to stop the run. And if they did that, they'd stop the pass. And remember how I told you in plain terminology that this was Mike Tomlin's way of protecting his precious coverage people concept that goes back to St. Vincent. The Packers needed 26 runs to get to 94 yards. That was a 3.6 average. So the Steelers did stop the run. They just stopped nothing else. Tough room afterward, as you might expect, not just because of the loss, not just because of the nature of the loss, but also because Deshaun Elliott went down with just an awful-looking knee injury. If somebody presents to you any sort of way to watch it, don't. That obviously doesn't help a team that can't cover anybody and can't tackle anybody because, he's pretty good at both. But the vibe overall in there was as bad as any I've experienced in there in some time. And I don't mean to take the offense off the hook here either. I didn't think the offense was really, honestly, anything special. There were some moments. There were some individual plays that were made. But way too much of what this offense does continues to be about protecting the offensive line instead of vice versa. So when you see Aaron Rodgers do stuff that he'd never done all season, meaning trying repeatedly to escape the rush instead of just getting rid of the football, that tells you, it should tell you, that he's a little bit frustrated. The guy I saw after the game was plenty frustrated. Jaylen Warren ran hard, really, really hard. And in the first half, the Packers were unable to stop him. Guess who stopped him? That's right, pal. The Steelers did. 1 carry over the first 15-plus minutes of the second half, even though the Steelers entered that half with a lead. DK Metcalf had a couple of big plays. The wide receivers as a whole weren't all that great. There were drops. There were mistakes. The tight ends weren't much of a factor at all, really, combining all 3 of them for 30 yards. Now, to be fair, Darnell Washington was summoned into offensive line duty because of the injury to Isaac Seumalo. Listen, after Cincinnati, you could tell yourself, and I could tell myself, this was a letdown. This was an opponent they should have beaten. They made several real mistakes that they hadn't made previously, and you can just chalk it up to whatever it was. The Tomlin game, the Thursday thing, whatever you don't have any of that here. You don't have any of that. The Packers came into Acrisure Stadium 4-1-1. They came in as one of only two teams in the league that had just the one loss. The Colts, of course, being the other. Well, they remain that. And the reason for that is that they're pretty good. They're well-rounded. They've got people on both sides of the ball. They've got themselves the young, exciting quarterback. They've got themselves a nice running back in Josh Jacobs. Outstanding tight end in Tucker Kraft. Steelers, of course, never have an answer for those guys. 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's to the point where the best I can offer you, the best, is that the Steelers, and specifically this secondary, are experiencing some momentary crisis in confidence that they can bounce back from, that they can be better, that they'll just shrug all this off as if it never happened. Kind of the way I think a lot of people were wishing last night would have gone, meaning that the Steelers would have just said, "Puh, Cincinnati, never happened. We're fine." They're not fine. They weren't in that game, and as I kept emphasizing all week, they haven't been fine in the secondary since day one. They now rank 30th in the NFL in total defense out of 32 teams. And when it comes to passing, dead last. And actually dead last by a broad margin, 273.3 yards per game. They're allowing almost 20 full yards per game more than the next worst team, the Cowboys. And meanwhile, the run defense, the thing that Tomlin tried to pin it on last week, is pretty much middle of the pack. Still, never was the problem. So, could it be a confidence thing? I asked Juan Thornhill. Juan, how much of this is just confidence? Even great athletes can have a lapse in confidence collectively too.
I don't think it's confidence at all. If I'm being honest, I don't. I don't think anybody's going out there just like expecting to be beat or nervous or something like that. Literally, I just feel like we just gotta work on the things like finding the ball when they throw it, making the tackles that we're supposed to make. Things simple as that.
Nope, got a lot of that. All around the room. No confidence issues. We are confident. We have confident people as individuals. We're confident as a group. And it was, by the way, the only thing anyone could answer emphatically. So what else can improve? They can get smarter. They can get schematically more intelligent, more effective. Tomlin was asked about the Steelers' in general defensive problems and whether or not those were rooted in scheme or the execution of the scheme. This was his response.
We all have to own it. Certainly you start with the schematics, man, because, that's the leadership component of it. And certainly we'll be looking at everything that we're doing, man, because some of these problems are somewhat repetitive and we're not getting better fast enough.
To repeat that last line, we're not getting better fast enough. No, they're not getting better at all. They're regressing. That's not an opinion on my part. I'm not expressing some thought that I came up with here. It's very, very easily and factually supported. The defense is getting worse. Now, in my view, this part is an opinion, the defense is getting worse because it continues to get further exposed with each passing week and each passing opponent that comes up with new and fun ways to score lots and lots and lots and lots of points against the Pittsburgh defense. This week, it was Matt LaFleur's turn, and LaFleur is one of the game's brighter offensive minds, and you'd better believe he had his fun. He'd also go on to bemoan possession downs as if the Steelers somehow have unique problems to third down. They don't. They just can't cover anybody. He also was asked about all of those throws right out in the flat, everything that's across the middle. That's been going on since day one. The other Jets were doing that in the opener. He responded that the flat throws didn't produce 300 plus yards of passing. It was those chunk plays. Well, no. No. The correct answer here is it's all of the plays. It's all of them. They're all adding up. Nobody's getting stopped. They're not getting stopped on third down, but they're also not getting stopped on first or second downs. And they've yet to be stopped all season on fourth down. They just don't get stopped. And that's because they can't cover anybody. And part of the reason that they can't cover anybody, and I think this is a pretty safe 2 + 2 = equation, given the types of names that are playing, not just in the secondary, but across this defense, is that they're just not being well coached. That's not the only thing. Please don't let that be what you hear when I say that. It's not the only thing, but they also aren't being well coached. But you know and I know that's not going to change. It's not going to change with a defensive coordinator. Terrell Austin's got that job. It's definitely not going to change, like ever, with the head coach. So what are the solutions? Call up new corners from the minor leagues? What's the solution here? What is it? I see one, and that's to fire people. But that's not going to happen. So I'll repeat from off the top today. What am I supposed to say here? When we come back, J1Q. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Football season's finally here. Time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Think the Steelers are headed to the Super Bowl? Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so you can join in on all the action. For those of you who are doing real work in construction, in a warehouse, if you're a mechanic, you want reliable, comfortable gear to help you perform well on the job. Brunt Workwear's got you. They've got waterproof boots, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up, whatever you need. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know of any other brand doing that. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off. Just head to bruntworkwear.com. Use the code DK Sports and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor here at DK Pittsburgh Sports and tell them it was from this show. Today's J1Q comes from Kyle Robinson, who says, "Hey DK, we know you can't change an offensive playbook mid-season. When Matt Canada was fired, the Steelers still had to use his plays the rest of that year. Is the same true for defense? Something has to change. Is it really just tackle better, play harder, like the head coach seems to want everybody to believe? The Steelers keep getting gashed in the air every game. Receivers are open, it looks like, on every play. I know you're not in the prediction business, but what are the chances they do something different with this schedule coming up? I'm not sure the schedule has anything to do with anything, Kyle. I'll start right there. I don't know if it matters who the Steelers are playing right now. Because the things that you say, that you pointed out, specified in a couple of cases, are accurate against everybody. The most powerful of those being receivers are open, it looks like, on every play. I don't know how this stuff appears on television. I genuinely don't. And there's two reasons for that. One is that I'm in the press box watching the game live. There are monitors that show replays. It's not the same thing. Replays tend to come from a different angle. The only other time I will view the game is on the All-22 film, which is really technical, really broad, and really up and down. It's not at all what's shown on the broadcast. That actually has me a little bit concerned because I don't know that the full scope of how awful this defense has been, but especially the pass defense, has penetrated to the public. I don't know that it's been all the way exposed, is what I'm saying. I got a note on the commenting section that we have on DK Pittsburgh Sports on the app from someone who was sitting opposite the press box at pretty much the same level of Acrisure Stadium and watching from the same angle, but again, from the other side. And that person somewhat playfully said to me, "You haven't been anywhere near harsh enough about how actually open everybody is." He said, when you're here and you're watching it and you just look and just see guys all over the grass, it's not like the other team's quarterbacks, whether it's Joe Flacco, whether it's Jordan Love, whether it's pretty much anybody that isn't some fifth stringer for Cleveland, it's not like they're making wizard-level decisions in choosing their open targets. They have their pick. I mean, I don't know how much this is going to get talked about, but the 2-point conversion that the Packers hit in the second half, I don't even remember who the dude was who was off to the left, but there wasn't anybody within 30 yards of him. And you can't say, well, it's just a 2-point play. Those are unconventional. They don't practice them as much. They actually do. They do a ton of goal line work. And that's all 2-point plays are. It's goal line defense. And I'm thinking, if you could ever fire a defensive coordinator on a single play, on a single whim, it would look a whole lot like that. It would look like that 2-point conversion. If Love was some kind of mean dude, he should have lollipopped that thing over there, like as if to emphasize how farcical it was that that guy was that open. And as I'm talking here, I'm looking at the game summary that gets passed out in the press box here, and I see that the receiver was Romeo Doubs. It was Doubs, the guy that you'd probably naturally pay more attention to than anyone else. Wide open. When I say wide open, I don't mean like, a couple of space. I mean, there was no one on that side of the field other than Doubs. But yeah, I'm sure if you try hard enough, you can link it to something that happened involving run defense, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. Okay, look, I'm not real comfortable signing off like this because I'm not naturally a negative person. I don't look for the negative things in life. I don't look for them in my profession. And I most certainly don't look for them in comparative silliness like football. And let's be real here. That's what sports are. They're not to be taken all that super crazy seriously. But I got nothing for you here. I got nothing. And if I tell you otherwise, if I say, hey, listen, the boys are going to bounce back and they're going to show the world who they really are when they take on the Colts, the team with the best record in the NFL, then you've got no reason to ever take me seriously again in anything positive that I do say. That's the way I always look at this stuff. If the Steelers come out next Sunday and, crazier things have happened and just fix all their defensive issues and beat the Colts and the whole football world is applauding them or whatever, I'm happy to sit here all day and tell you that, hey, that show that I did on Monday, I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. I'm not worried about that sort of thing. I'm just sharing what it is that I feel in this moment, and in this moment based on 2 whole months now of football. I just don't see anything progressing here. I don't see anything getting better. So they can sit in first place. They're guaranteed first place. Heck, they're guaranteed first place if they lose to the Colts next week. Nobody from this rotten division can overtake them by next week. But this idea that they were getting better or morphing into something or becoming one of those teams in the AFC that you put on maybe a little bit of a higher pedestal than the others, no. I appreciate the question, Kyle. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. We will have a double shot of Steelers at 4 p.m. Eastern today, in which I'll be joined by our beat writer, Chris Halleck, to talk more football. If you're in the mind frame for that, we'll be happy to have you.